So you just ordered a new console. This is what you'll get in UPS. You get a box and it'll have the motor in it. You'll get a bigger box and it will have the sewing machine head in it. And then depending on what table you order, you may get 2 boxes or 1 box. In this particular setup, 1 box is the table legs and 1 box is actually the table top. Sometimes they'll come together. So you get a nice pack like that dropped off at your door from UPS, FedEx, or whoever. And that's normal to see. So now it's time for our motor. Open up the box. We have our handy dandy instruction sheet, and it tells you how to adjust the speed, a bunch of warnings. The installation is real in depth. And it's got a schematic of the motor. Just set that to the side. We've got our spare parts that we went over earlier. We've got the brushes and we've got the fuse. Put the fuse in the brushes bag so you don't lose it. Set that to the side. We've got our hardware bag. We're going to set it down right here. We've got our belt cover. Give it a little love to get it out of there. They put it in tight. Alright, I'm going to set that down. Now we have our motor inside the box. Comes out. Just give it a once over. It's in plastic. Make sure that our friends at UPS or FedEx didn't break it or drop it or have any visual damage to it. Alright, so everything seems to be okay in that box. So we'll put it all back in here and we're just going to set it to the side. Alright, now we have the sewing machine box itself, and we have the console. We have the part number down here. This particular unit is a 205RB, and again it's going to say that right there, and it's going to have the serial number and the official console tag. So we're going to open this one up. We're just going to check it, make sure there's no damage in it. Watch out for the staples, they're mean. So we open it up and we got a whole bunch of stuff. This right here is the bobbin winder. We're just going to set it to the side. We have the knee lift package. We have the spare parts pack, and it has some screwdrivers, some bobbins. It has the knee lift mushroom and some needles in it. Handy dandy big screwdriver. This is the hinges and rubber mounts for the table. This is the safety guard for the drive belt that goes down to the motor. Bottle of oil. It's normal, if you can see that, it's only going to be about half full. That's all you need. Over in this corner is the thread stand, and it's all disassembled in the bag. And we have the motor belt, and then we have the top cover. Slide that off, and down in here we have the sewing machine. Basically, the first thing we want to do is make sure that the hand wheel is not broken. So just a visual inspection of that. Take a quick look, and she looks good to go. That's pretty much all we need to do right now, and we'll set this to the side. Alright, here's the box that has our stand in it. Let's open up carefully so we don't mess it up. Oh, it has a table in this one too. Oh, actually this is 2 tables. So, this is the table box, not the stand box. Now, this particular box has 2 tables in it because I ordered 2 machines. If you ordered 1 machine, you'll get 1 table. Alright, so that's what she looks like. Just want to do a quick visual inspection. Make sure there's no real damage. Now, understand these are industrial machines, so there might be some little imperfections here or there. They're not show models. But as long as your corners aren't damaged and it's not a UPS damage item, you're good to go. So let's set this off to the side. So we're going to unbox the table legs and stand. Open her up, and the first thing we have here is the foot pedal. The plastic that's on this, sometimes the plastic's already attached, sometimes it's not. If it's not attached, you just stretch it and poke the tabs through the holes. We have a leg assembly. This is going to be the right hand leg if you're looking at it up. There's no real way to tell the difference. They're not marked. But when we put the table together, I'll show you the trick of having these facing the right way. We have the other leg assembly. This is the 2 top posts, and it looks like I slid them in together. Slide them apart if they're together, just slide them apart. These things here are just protective corner posts that they use when shipping. We have the back support, and we have the foot pedal support. And then we have our drawer, and it's got all our goodies in there. It has the hardware bag, the drawer slides, the foot pedal motor bracket. This is the parts to hook the foot pedal to the motor. And then there should be 2 of these, and one's floating around loose in the box. And these are the brackets that you bolt the legs together with. Alright, we're going to go over the tools you need to assemble the Consew table and stand. Hammer. Claw hammer will work. Just anything small that you can do a little tapping with. A 17mm open end box end wrench. A 15mm wrench. 14mm wrench. 10mm and 8mm. And you need a screwdriver, Phillips head, cross point. And if you're using a power screwdriver, you'll need a number 2 Phillips, a number 1 Phillips, and depending on if you get Phillips head screws or socket screws, something like a 5/16 inch socket bit. And then you'll need a small drill bit, 1/16 of an inch, in that neighborhood. About twice the size of a pencil lead will be just fine. Don't need a big one. Those are all the tools you need. You can do away with the wrenches and use a crescent wrench, but it's real difficult. And a power screwdriver makes it really easy. Alright, we're going to start assembling the table, legs, and tabletop. Orientate the tabletop. So you're sitting where I'm sitting, and up in the top left-hand corner is a hole, and that's for your thread stand. That's how you want to orientate this. This is your hole for your belt, and of course some sewing machine. So you want to stand or sit, stand, or put it on your workbench so you're orientated this way. So now you have your hardware pack, and you're going to want to open it up, and we're just going to dump it out. And we can sort it out here. You got some big bolts, sort them out. And we have some screws, some little bolts, some little nuts. Alright, so these don't have bolts, excuse me, nuts. These have nuts. You got itty bitty screws. These two plates are for doing your attaching your foot pedal bracket to your legs. These are for attaching your foot pedal to your foot pedal support. And we have two strange pocket bolts there, and we'll figure out what those are for. So the first thing you want to do is grab, these are actually the leg tops, and you want to orientate it properly. And what I do is I put them together here, and you notice how they have an open side and a closed side. Alright, the two open sides face each other, so you're going to have the long part facing you and the short little part here facing away. Alright? One goes here, just generally, one goes there. Now you take the leg in the same orientation. You got the open part facing the motor, so the open parts are facing each other, and then we get two screws, two of the big screws. And come over here, we slide it over top of this one. Now, you notice there's two long slots. You got a hole right here, in this way. I always put it so I'm in the top, actually the bottom of the top slot. That gives us a standard spot for our height. That's pretty much where I put all my machines together at. You can go higher, lower, whatever fits you, and you can also adjust that once you have the machine in. Now you take this little thing, and it's threaded, so it goes right inside here, and you'll take a bolt. It takes 6 hands to do it. Place it in there, put your bolt to the back side, and you just got to line it up and thread it into that hole. Alright, you can do the same on the other side. So now you have that piece, which is your backer plate, and it's bolted together. You can still slide it up and down, and like I said, I have it all the way up tight here. Now, all you're going to do is finger tighten this, and you're going to set it over to the side. You're going to do the same with the next one. Remember, don't tighten them with a wrench yet. You gotta do a little fine adjustment. Okay. Alright, so we just got them set up like this on the table, top. Sometimes they stay, sometimes they won't. You just don't want to stay. So, this is where a second hand comes in handy, or a second person. See how I lean them up together? Old marine trick. Now you grab your Consew back support. And the trick here is to flip it over so it's upside down. Alright, that way, because when you flip the table over, it'll be right side up. So we want to put this on. There's two holes right here on each leg that allow you to just bolt these in with the big bolts. So take all 6 of your hands. And that ain't gonna work. Call for my assistant, but everyone else is busy. Finger tight. There's 2 over here. Alright, so we're ready to put our foot pedal cross brace in. Has 2 sides. Flat side and the side with the lips on it, and the lips go facing up. Now you're going to have 2 flat washers, they're threaded, and 2 of the 14mm bolts. And the trick here is to put this flat washer in and then turn it completely sideways in there. Takes a little second to get that in there. See how that is right there? And you slide it under and you put a screw in, or bolt in. It's loose right now. Now do the same thing to this side. Now, what I like to do is measure. I prefer about 4.5 inches from the edge of the foot right here to the bar. You can adjust that later. Let's give that a little tighten up. Grab your 14mm wrench. Just snug it for right now. Go over to this side. Do about the same. And you snug it up. Now, what this does is this holds the foot pedal here. And if you move this back, your foot pedal goes farther back. So you can adjust it for your comfort if you want to by just coming once it's upside down or right side up. Just loosen these and you can slide it back. Problem though, if you get too far back, your motor rod will hit and you won't have be able to do your foot pedal up and down. So you have to give enough clearance right here that your motor rod will clear this beam. And if you want farther forward, you just loosen these up and drag it forward. Now to actually mount the pedal, you need your 14mm wrench. You need these 2 clips, of course your pedal, and you have 2 bolts and 2 nuts. Sometimes this is better to have someone help you with it. You need 6 hands. If you notice, you'll have slots through here, and I usually go about the first or the 3rd slot. And again, when you get it up right side up, you can adjust this left or right to suit your needs. There's a hole right here. What happens is this fits in that hole, and then you come under here and you can see how we got the hole lined up right there. This particular one, I'm going to go just eyeballing. I'm going to go in into the 2nd slot, and you put your screw up. Just finger tighten it. And then we're going to do the same over here. Alright, so see how we got her flopping there. Now, we're going to tighten her up. We'll need another 14mm wrench to hold the other side. Now, this should move freely right now, and it's kind of sticky. See how it's kind of sticky? So what you're going to want to do, is take your trusty rusty hammer, and since I tighten this up, I kind of got a little cockeyed in here. So I'm just going to tap this a little bit, see how it's nice and loose now. So I just straightened up that bracket with the edge of the foot pedal. Alright, so now we have the motor rod bracket, and we have 4 holes across the top here. The motor pulley is on this side over here. So we've got the single hole. We're just going to mount it right here. And again, if you move this pedal back and forth, you may have to extend this one way or retract it the other way. And we put you have your small bolt and a small nut. You only have 2 of each. And we'll stick it in. Alright, we just left it loose so that we can go back and forth, so when we install the motor and motor rod, we can line it up a little better, and we'll tighten these bolts later. Our big thing here is keeping our hole available for us to put a nut on it. So I usually leave about 1 inch or so from that hole, and then I take a total measurement to the edge of my table. In this case, I'm just going to go around 3 inches. Nice even 3 inches right here. And then I'm going to measure here, and usually I like to keep it right at the edge of the hole on the front side. So I back it up a little bit, and that's about 2 inches. So we're just going to pick a random number there. 2 inches there, and 3 inches here, and we're going to throw a screw in it. Alright, so you got to remember those numbers, 2 inches this way, 3 inches this way. And we come over here and we measure 3 inches. And we have to bend it around, move it around, and get 3 inches right there. We're not worried about this dimension. And we throw a screw in this one. Alright, there's that side. Now the important thing right here is on the far leg, we measured 2 inches from the back of the tabletop to here. So we want to do that same measurement, 2 inches. We want to scoot around, make sure everything eyeballs up straight, and we'll screw it in. Now we take a measurement this way, and just whatever it is. This one just happens to be 12 1/4. So we'll come to this front side and we'll make the same measurement. We want 12 1/4. So we'll kind of push this around till we get right where we want it. And screw it down. Alright, now we're going to start tightening up our bolts. And that's pretty easy. Be a 14mm wrench. And you just come in here and tighten them up. Try not to scratch your paint with the wrench. And you don't have to tighten the bejeebers out. Just get them good and snug. Now, some models have an extra hole right here, and if you have that, you put a screw in there and do the same thing. How I wasn't careful, I scratched the paint a little bit. This is going to be on the underside, so it's not that big a deal. But be a little more careful than I was. Now at this point, they gave us a good opportunity to put the drawer in. We have all these little tiny screws right here. Drawer, I like to put it about here. These are the drawer guides. You've got a groove here, you've got a groove here. And just set in, one on each side. Bring them all the way up to the front edge. There's a little stop there. Line up the drawer, the front edge of the table. You don't want it sticking out. Make sure you leave you about 2 fingers of space right here so you can get in there and screw it down. If you put it all the way tight, you won't be able to get your fingers in there. These are small screws, so we're using a number 1 Phillips bit. And there's 3 screws on each side. Don't worry if it's in the wrong spot. You can always unscrew it and put it back in. Now don't torque the bejeebers out of these screws, as you'll break the plastic. Just made to be snugged up. Alright, just make sure your drawer slides in and out. Neat. They're nice enough to give us 2 extra screws, so we'll put those inside. So now it's time for our motor. These new motors are only about 13 to 15 pounds, so they're a lot lighter than the old style. Alright, there we go. Now we're going to dump out our hardware package and take a look at what we got. We have 3 bolts for the motor itself. We have 3 black rubber washers. This is a spare brake pad. for the motor. I'm going to put that to the side. We have 3 washers for the motor, 3 bolts, 3 lock washers. There are 3, should be gold colored or brass colored screws. Those are for the motor cover. Put the motor cover over here and set to the side. These 2 little screws are for the switch to the motor. And these little cable clamps are for the motor wires. Put these over here. Pull the wires. They're already pre-connected, but you kind of got to untangle them or stuff them under here for shipping. And they're free. Now, the motor is oriented like that with a pulley where the belt hole is. And on this side of the motor, we have 2 slots for bolts. And this motor side of the motor, we have 1 slot. There's 2 holes here, 1 hole here. So that's how the motor is going to be orientated. Just set that right in the hole. Now what we have to do, we have to take the bolts and put them up from the underside. So I just kind of tilt it up, put my foot under it, and let's just put these bolts here, all 3 of them. Alright, our 3 bolts. Now we've got to put our 3 rubber washers on with the little extension on the top side. Push them down. Alright, now we're ready to set the motor on. And it just goes like so. Easy. Now we take our 3 washers, our big washers, and we put them on. The 3 bolts. Now we have our 3 lock washers, little split washer, and they go on. Now we have our 3 bolts. We put them on. Just finger tight, that's it. Now, while we're looking at the bottom and back side of the motor here, a couple things to point out. This is a 110 volt plug, so you can plug a light in if you want to plug a light in. This is a reversing switch. Some sewing machines run backwards from other sewing machines. So if you get all this hooked up and your sewing machine is running backwards and the fabric's being spit out towards you instead of fed through the machine, you just come over here and flip this switch to the other side, and that reverses the motor, which will reverse your sewing machine. So, real handy feature there. Right here is the motor brush port. Here's your spare motor brushes. You would unscrew this little screw. There's one on each side, and then you would, if your brush is everywhere out, you would replace your brush right there. Real easy to do, not a big deal. Alright, so now we need to install the wires. And with that, we take off the tie. Everything's pre-wired. We just have to attach the wires to the machine. So, I just kind of go around this area, then we'll go around the front and screw it down. Alright, they gave us these 2 handy dandy black screws, and I just take and come somewhere where I want it. You can put this thing anywhere you want it, but I usually go right off the edge of this foot. And I make sure I'm recessed so that it's not sticking out to get hit or accidentally bumped. So I recess it just a 1/4 of an inch. Take my screw, get where I want it. Remember, don't over tighten it, because you can easily just break the plastic. Alright, so we have our switch mounted. Now let's tie down these cables. Now I take my trusty rusty hammer, and I take a clamp. I just kind of come over here, lay them out kind of neatly, and I put a clamp about right there. Try not to whack my finger on the first try. Put a clamp about right there. Come over to the other side. And we got this hole right here we got to keep an eye on for our thread stand. Go. We got our cords attached, and that is ready to plug in. Alright, now that we have this mostly complete, we're going to flip her over. So, just with the help of our buddy, turn it over, pick it up, and in theory you'll have a nice, level, almost complete sewing machine stand. The bolts will be up here. We haven't tightened none of this. The stand's tightened, foot pedal's tightened, and we'll go on to the next step. Alright, so we have our fuse and our motor brushes and our extra brake for the motor. Now's the time to open up the drawer, drop them in. Here's a little bag of hardware. Let's go through that. Have a oil can for you fill this up out of the big oil jug, go in the drawer. 2 handy dandy screwdrivers for doing adjustments, drawer. Don't know, we'll figure that out later. This is the knee lift mushroom. We're going to need that in a minute. In this baggie, we have some bobbins. We have a handy dandy magnet that someone felt you needed. And then this is a couple needles. From the manufacturer, all it comes with 2 or 3 needles they usually give you. So that goes in the drawer. So, close the drawer. Alright, what we have here is the motor connector rod. It's got this little slide thingy on it. Take it off. There's a couple different variations. One's a spring loaded with a hook. Then some actually have a nut with a ball joint. Just depends on what you get. We have where we put this little hook on there earlier. And hook that in there. And then this little going this way. Like that. And you know what? You can do it backwards if you want to. It really doesn't matter. The instructions are really specific on these, which means there are no instructions. So, you got it like this. You got your foot pedal up. As high as we'll go. Put this bad boy back on here. So, tighten that up just so it's kind of snug. You want to hold these two together. Still got this loose. Put it about in the middle. This one takes a 14mm wrench. It may be a little different. Just snug it. Alright, so now we have it. Now watch, you push down, you actuate the motor right here. Okay? So now what we need to do is, it doesn't matter if this is perfectly straight or to the side. I like it straight, but they're made to where they can be at an angle. If you want to move this over farther, one way or the other, it's okay for this to be at an angle. I like it straight. It's up to your preference. Now's a good time. This is a multi-speed motor. has a good time. It comes from the factory set at the highest speed. Click it off that speed and turn it down. Leave it about a quarter way up. If you turn on your machine right there, it's going to go lightning fast. I like it slow, so turn it down to start with. Now we can tighten these up. That should be two 10mm wrenches, and we'll get it tight. Now we can take our wrench and snug these up a little more. Do a little test. Now we're going to pull the machine out of the box. This thing's heavy. If you need help, don't necessarily attempt it yourself. It weighs about 70 pounds. Best way, reach in here, grab hold of the middle thing, and yank, and you're out. Now, down the bottom of the box, ooh, hey, some instructions. Misconception, these aren't instructions. These are really the part book and exploded diagram. Handy if you're going to order parts, but not today. Down further in the box is a pan. This is the oil pan. Now, this oil pan has these little black round things. They're just for shipping. So you'll see they're kind of glued or not glued. Take them, throw them off. Now you have a oil seal around here. Make sure it's not torn or damaged. It'll have a seam or two in it, but it should be glued in place. And just kind of shake out the styrofoam. This mechanism is the knee lift mechanism. It should already be pre-assembled. Now, the pan is going to fit in, and it fits in orientated like this, with the cutout for the bobbin on the left side. Then dig through your pile. And here is your hinges and rubbers. Open up the bag. Hinge, stays inside. Rubber, rubber, hinge, hinge, rubber, rubber. Now this is where most people make mistakes. See how we have an oblong hole here and no hole here. So the little piece is for the back and the big piece is for the front. Okay? Now take the little piece and you actually have to slide them onto the pan first. So we got all four slid onto the pan. Then we take it and put it in there and work them in. You try and put the pan in first and then the rubbers, it ain't gonna work. And it's a tight fit. It ain't supposed to be really loose. So you're gonna have to work them in there. Alright. Now, it's not totally flush. It's up a 1/16 of an inch, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Alright. So, got the pan in. Try and get your little styrofoam beads out of there before you fill it with oil. Alright, here's the mushroom for the knee lift. It goes in that hole. I get a bunch of phone calls from people saying, oh, my knee lift don't work, because you ain't got that in there. Simple, drop in, and you're done. If you want to get the glue off, you can get the glue off. It won't hurt a thing. So, that's it for the pan. Now at this point, I take our styrofoam, and our box is empty, except for our styrofoam. Put that back in there, and I will tape up that box and put it away in case you ever have to ship the machine or want to move. You have a good thing to put the machine back in. Now our hinges, these are rubbers for our hinges. They just snap in, or not snap in, but slide in. And those slide in there. Alright, we'll save these for later. Alright, so we have our knee lift package, which is a round circle thingy. And they could be gray, black, white. Dump everything out. Watch out for staples, they hurt. Alright, so here we're laying out our parts. There we go. Alright, so we have the rubber knee pad. We have the backer plate. There's a little groove cut in the plastic right here all the way around. And we've got to work this backer plate into the plastic. A little tight, but it'll go in. Squeeze her on there, and you'll see it starting to come back to a circle. There we go. So we have the backer plate on the knee lift pad. Now we have our knee lift arm, and proper orientation is like that. We have our little clamp, and what we do, that clamp goes in here like this. Like that. And then we put a rod through the clamp. And we tighten that up. Takes a 10mm wrench. Just snug it up a little bit. So now we have this assembled. Now, for some reason, if this isn't on, it's real easy. Slides right on. And when you do your orientation, you want it with this bolt facing you. And just give it a little snug. Don't tighten it tight. Then this top one, loosen it all the way up so you can see straight through it. Alright, then we're going to put it on. Alright, so this is the post that the knee lift goes on. And it's real easy. Slide it on there. Alright, and you can adjust this later, but for now, I put it just at a slight angle. And we're going to tighten, pull it out till you're flush with this post. And just tighten it up. Remember, don't tighten the bejeebers out of it. Just give it a good snug. Alright, make sure everything's working. Snug that one up. Snug that one up. And when we get up and start sewing, we'll adjust this later. Back up under in here, this should all be pre-adjusted already to work properly. Alright, so now we're going to work on the thread stand. It comes in a package. Let's open her up. We have the thread stand post. We have the thread cups. This is the upper and lower arm. You can tell the difference between the upper. This is the upper arm because it has the thread guides, and this is the lower arm that the thread cups will sit on. Hardware bag. These are the thread post. These are the holders that fit inside the thread cup, and this is the cup one. This is a little safety cap for the top. Alright, easiest way to do this is the bottom, because it's got the thread. This is where it goes to the table. So what I like to do is take the bottom, thread holder. Slide it on there. Now, this is the coupling so that you can couple this to this. Alright, so I like to take that and put it right, a little bit under the coupling. And then we're going to tighten it up. Now, in theory, we've got a little nipple right here that holds a nut. Sometimes it holds a nut, sometimes it don't. So you can use a cross-point screwdriver and just tighten that up. Now, if your nut does spin, you can just use an 8mm wrench to hold the nut. Just got to tighten it enough so it'll stay. Alright. Then we take our coupling. I like to put the coupling with the flange towards the inside. Again, we're just going to tighten at the bottom. Alright, so we got that coupling on. Now you take the top, and we have the top thread guide, and you slide it on there. And you can see there's a little ledge, and that goes towards the top. Then we come up here, come an inch from the top, and screw it on. Now, we take the two, and we made them together. And it doesn't have to be perfectly aligned because you can twist it around later. Alright, so now we have it that far. Next part is your thread post. Unscrew it. You have a lock washer and a nut. You have your thread cup. You have this foam pad that keeps your cone from spinning. Put that over. And if you see, you got a little notch cut out right there, and you got two little ears here, and so it fits in that notch. Come in, push it through until you see till the ears come through. All right. Now you take it and you put it through. Put your lock washer on and your nut. Alright, do the same to the other, then we'll tighten it. Alright, this is an 8mm wrench. Snug it up. Alright, then these little caps slide right on. They're a little stiff, they're supposed to be. There we go. Alright. So now that you have this all put together, we got to take the bolt off the bottom. Now, you've got this little mushroom shaped thing. You put one washer on. Now, all of them come with this rubber washer, which I don't like. So I don't put it on because you're supposed to put it on here, but it gives a little flex in the movement. Some people like it, I don't. I leave that off. So, slide that through the hole. Turn it over this way. Put one washer underneath, nut on under here. Now at this point, I just finger tighten it. You can come back and use a crescent wrench and tighten it when you get it where you know, orientated where you want it. All right, the next thing we have to do is get the head and put it in the machine. And it comes wrapped up. It's pre-oiled on the bottom, so don't set it down on your carpet. Put it down on a piece of cardboard or something like that. Got a block in here, throw that away. Now you have the two hinges. They're identical. You got a little hole right here. That hinge, stick it in that hole. Stick that one in that hole. Alright, important step. If you try and do this where you're holding it up in the air, not going to work. So the best way to pick it up, one hand on the hand wheel, and slide your fingers in underneath the feet by the needle. See how I got it right there? Alright, and then lift with your legs, not your back. Now we come over and just set it straight in, and set those hinges. Sometimes you gotta reach over there and push it in, and the head set in. Alright, now we've got the machine set in place. We have to line up this pulley with the motor pulley. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see what's in there, but so we just got to eyeball it, and right now I can tell that it's not quite lined up. It needs to go that way. So we come over here to the motor, and we just kind of, I have to loosen it up a little bit. My finger tight was too tight. Alright, we're just going to kind of wiggle the motor. You see it'll move back and forth. Alright, and then we come back over here. We're just eyeballing it right now. Well, it looks pretty close. Now we take our belt and we put it over our motor, put it down in there, then we come under here. And the first thing we got to do is we got to loosen this. That nut right there. Alright, that one should all be loose, so that lets us go back and forth. And see, our belt won't fit on our motor because it has to come forward for it to fit. See, it's still tight, doesn't want to do it. So in this case, we rock the head back and slip the belt over the motor. There we go. So we now have the belt on the motor. We're going to go back up top and check for alignment. So all we're doing here is checking to make sure we're coming in a straight line. And I can see my belt kind of going that way a little bit. So we need to slide the motor over just a smidge. Doesn't have to be wholly scientific. Give it a little tap. Much better. So we've got her pretty good line there. Don't went too far. Look at that. I don't know if you can see the little bow in the belt. But I actually went a little too far. Yep. So come over here, wiggle it back another 1/16 of an inch, and that looks pretty good. Now at this point we need to tighten the motor. You've got the belt aligned, and we just need to come in here with a 14mm wrench and tighten the motor. Now what you're going to see right here, there's a little gap because these are carriage bolts, and we're going to tighten it until these sink down into the table. So it's going to be a few turns. I feel it's getting tight, and I don't want to really tighten it too much. I just want to flatten that little split washer, because these are vibration isolators, and it'll keep the motor from vibrating the table. So just a good hard snug, and then do the other three, or the other two, excuse me. There we have it. Now we need to adjust the motor belt tension. And we have the top nut here and the bottom nut. And this actually tightens us down, puts pressure down on the motor belt and tightens it up. This is just the locking nut. So we just want to kind of finger tighten it. And we want a 1/2 inch of play still in this thing. We don't want to get it too tight. So it's just kind of a feel, still a little loose, but enough to grip. Now, this belt can stretch over time, so after you use it for a month or two, you may need to come down here and do this again and adjust it a little tighter. Now run this nut back up and tighten it, and that locks the motor in place. Now if you get the belt too tight, you put strain on the bearings, on everything, and you can actually tighten it so much you rock the machine back in its cradle. So just a nice 1/2 inch of clearance. This is a good time to check the motor speed. When they come from the factory, they're all the way on full speed. So click it and turn it down to about 900 or something. In a walking foot machine, they're not made to go that fast. This is a multi-speed motor for use on all different machines. So if you're doing these t-shirt machines that just fly by, yeah, you're going to run it up here. But a walking foot is made to run down the 900 to 1200 RPM mode. So about right there is where you want to start. You can turn it all the way down to 0. You can have it just barely up. You can play with that to get where you want your maximum speed to be. So I usually do that right off the bat. Alright, it's time to put on the belt guard. We have belt guard and our 3 gold screws from earlier. We've got 3 holes, 1, 2, 1 on the other side. And real simple. Got these slots, stick the screws through the slot and screw it on. Usually I take the screwdriver. They're a little tricky to thread in and get them started. You may have to lay down on your back to do it. Get it, buddy. Just get them lined up. 2 on this side started. You can tighten them up. You don't want to tighten up too much, just enough so they're snug and this belt guard doesn't drift around. You want to line that belt guard up so that it's clearing the belt on the top side so it doesn't rub. And if you make a mistake and you turn the machine on and it rubs, you just come loosen these screws and rotate the belt guard so it's not touching the belt on the top side or the front side. There, we're done. Alright, you got a bottle of oil in your package. It's not going to be full. They only put enough that you need. And once you got everything done, you're settled and happy with what everything's going on. Tilt your machine back, lay it back, and you're going to want to fill. I'm not going to do it now because it's in my showroom. But you're going to want to fill this oil pan right here. There's a low and a high line right here. It says oil, low, high. So you're going to pour some of this oil in there, and anywhere between low and high. I'd never fill them all the way up to high. I kind of put it right in the middle. Make sure though you wipe out your pan. Make sure there's no contaminants in there, because there's packing styrofoam beads, and you may have dropped something else in there. So you fill that with oil, and you'll have a little left over, and you can put it in your little oiler bottle for oiling the back of it, and then keep the rest for later. Alright, if you're sitting on an unlevel surface, these feet here, you can screw them in or out to level the machine. If you got a dip in your concrete or something, but all 4 feet are screw in and out for leveling. Alright, so we're pretty much finished, and we ended up with several nuts and screws. I call these pocket bolts. They're nice enough to send us a few extra in case we lose one. So just recycle those or keep them for future use.